Well, I had this weird question because, we know that, or as far as I've learned, cosmic rays have a big impact on whether or not an earthquake or a volcano has activity, and also, intertwined with the energy coming from the sun. Like there's some kind of correlation there. So my question would be, like, would there be like an uptick in volcanic activity, earthquakes, and things like that while your magnetic field was flipping? Or moving around or excursion, and is that something that also led to a lot of stuff dying off at that time? Was not just the danger from exposure from the sun, but its effects, the domino effect that it has with our crust and our volcanic system, earthquakes, and stuff like that. But these floods that you're talking about, a 1,000 year floods. I realized this the other day that I'm sitting out here in this vast desert with lots of acreage of land. It's a lot. It's unimaginable. New Mexico's a big state and it's mostly empty. So these flash floods come through here, and it dumps unimaginable amounts of water on a single area all of a sudden when the monsoon just dumps on it. The problem is that most people don't really notice that because it's like I don't know what the odds are that it's going to hit right downtown on your little city in all that acreage. So it's always happening. There's these massive floods out in the middle of nowhere that no one even knows about. The only time they pay attention to it is when it happens to hit a populated area. But to move on from that, that was kind of a question to you. What do you think the magnetic field in combination with the sun and earthquakes and volcanoes? How much does that actually play a role? And do you think we're actually going to see some kind of real uptick or even downtick right before there's an event related to our magnetic field, like a temporary collapse or a flip, or any of that would kind of amount to the same thing, where solar radiation would just bombard the earth kind of unfiltered and right on us, and those that were exposed, i.e. people that live outside, if they're in that area, like say you live in a mud hut somewhere, Southeast Asia, Africa, the Amazon, no matter where it is, that's the place it hits. Do you think that they're going to get more or less, radiation than other people that live in skyscrapers, or, you can even go there with the bunkers, but uh, imagine what that's going to do. And I know that you've done a lot of studying on cosmic rays and crop growth and whether or not it will or won't under certain circumstances. So, like, imagine if you have all these farms and they're just getting baked, you know, fried by the sun because there's no magnetic field. But not only that, imagine the amounts of mutation that will happen in the crops themselves and the people, animals, and etc.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what it would be. It's a galactic cosmic rays that have an interaction with the Paleozoic composition of the crust, basically crystals in the crust, and that would be, you're familiar with this because you hang out with Diamond, or Diamond as well, and some geologic references here. So if you're looking at quartz crystals or quartzite or different types of quartz-based rocks, the way it was explained to me was the galactic cosmic rays come in and then they interact with those. And that interaction causes a pressure differential, and it's in different layers of the crust. And that differential is also an energy release. So the energy release, as we understand it, is a pressure difference. And that pressure difference causes the activation and punch throughs and the activation of mud volcanoes, uh, earth cracks and rifting, and volcanic activity itself. And in a very, very minute, smallest way, at the very surface on our planet, like we're literally driving down a road, is where bridges would be disconnecting and decoupling from the banks, like bridges falling down all over the place. We started to see this a lot now. Like there has been a lot of bridges collapsing, and I would encourage anybody to go out and just do a data search on, give me the top 30 or 40 bridge collapses over the last 2 years. Major roadways are coming down. I'm not talking about the boat that hit it. I'm talking about it's just there and then poosh, it just falls in on itself. But that pressurization and the interaction with the galactic cosmic rays, especially in lava, there's a lot of in situ, or kind of melted, for a better term, quartzite crystals in there. Because, when volcanoes erupt, there's all types of different gemstones, the peridot, and different. That's very common one, where you get the green coming out. Get a lot of reds and pinks and that sort of thing, depending on which crystal structure it is. But again, when you're coming back to it, there's always a quartzite involved in that. So the eruptions would absolutely be incredibly noticeable as the galactic cosmic rays were increasing. And again, that might be why the Chinese had understood, and the Arab mystic star watching clans of the time, that when we saw a naked eye micronova, like a star just appears up there in the sky, that it caused a havoc on the planet with weather systems. And there's not so many volcanoes in China as much on the eruptive phase as there would be along the Ring of Fire, but they would notice it. And it's very much a telltale thing, like in just in Chinese lore itself and mythology, in Japan and Korea as well. When you look back further, the appearance of comets, like very large comets, not the ones you have to look up with a telescope and see like a little fuzzy tail that's like a half a degree of arc or an eighth of a degree arc. No, we're talking about the big ones that you can see come streaking across the sky. Like Hale-Bopp was a good one back in the 90s. That would have counted. When those types of comets come in, long duration, visible to the eye, really close to Earth, people freak out because it always brought disease, plagues for a better term. It brought drought and pestilence and famine. Because somehow our system atmospherically changed when the interaction of the ion tail, whatever, swept by. There's been a lot that have come way, way closer than Hale-Bopp. Like literally a tail of the comet grazed our planet. So when you get something like this, that is an atmosphere disruptor. But at the same time, those galactic cosmic rays hitting in and causing these magmatic events would also be like, how many eruptive volcanoes there are. If you could do me a favor, Ransom, and go to Volcano Discovery, that's a great site. They have just really good data on that one. This is not a toothpaste. It's a revolution for your teeth. Remineralize, strengthen teeth, all natural ingredients, essential oils, minerals, salts. Alpha Vedic Dental Solutions System. That's alphavedic.com/civilization. And not a lot of people are talking about this. We always see the storable foods. But what about dental care during these same emergency situations? So take a look at what they have, alphavedic.com/civilization, about how many eruptive volcanoes are happening today, right now, in unison at the same time. So you would see a couple things. So if it's not bridge cracks, earth cracks, and bridges pulling away, you're going to go further down in the crust. Then we start to get to the mud volcano level. So if we're starting at the Earth's surface, the cracked roads, earth cracks, earth rifts, we're seeing a lot of that. Bridges decoupling, a lot of that's happening. And then step it down several hundred feet down under the ground. You're going to start to get into the mud volcano eruptions. Mud volcano. And then further we get down, then we get into the lava and the magma chambers. So you'll start to see more pressurized eruptions. So anybody out there, ask yourself, have you seen more like crazy, wow, look at this fire hose lava like coming out of Kilauea, or the fire hose gigantic plumes coming off of Etna? And the ones that are just like rifting open like a bunch of sewing needles around in, Iceland. Like there's a huge amount of pressure difference under our Earth right now. The volcanoes themselves, are they as eruptive with like year without a summer ash ejection? Not yet. Are they more eruptive in terms of pressures where it can be pressurized out and squeezed out, for a better term? Yeah, those are becoming much more ferocious, and you're getting 300, 400, 500 foot lava fountains. Like you normally don't see that unless you're in a really highly pressurized zone. But that would be visible first, where the extra pressure obviously is going to come out where it's easiest to come out first. Then you're going to come into the blockage areas. And we're not talking about Yellowstone. The caldera is too big. There'd be too many poke through points first before the whole thing would go off. But you're going to get into some of these plugs where that pressure is going to build up, build up, build up, build up, and then suddenly, boom, then you're going to get one of those like eruptive events that Tambora, a year without a summer, or something like this. It's going to be an ash eruption. Now, I really believe that the Hunga Tonga water vapor eruption had a lot to do with some of the things we're seeing. Because, they were talking about salinity on those Southern Oceans, salinity changes there. If you put 14% more moisture in the atmosphere from Hunga Tonga, it's going to rain out. And since our Earth is predominantly water around it, that rainfall would also go onto the surface of the ocean. So if there's 14% more moisture in our atmosphere from that single eruption, that water's going to come back and land back on the surface layer of the ocean. So do you think there might be salinity changes across all the oceans across the whole planet? I think there would be. So we're on a planetary scale here of changes that haven't been seen in hundreds of years. So, and then we get the cultural change, the societal change, the economic change, all on top of this. So who knows something? And that would be, where's that at? Where's that map at?
This is where I live. This is the funny thing about this, is because, I've read about this volcano, and what do you think would just spark out in the middle of nowhere where there's no other volcanoes? A just 75-kilometer lava flow one day 5,000 years ago, just boom. And then, there were all
That's an
kinds of
overpressurization event. Now, there might have been an eruptive event that would ascend ejecta many kilometers or miles into the sky. But if it was those are called like toothpaste lava eruptions, where you get that slow oozing where it doesn't really go any higher than a couple hundred feet, and you get that volcanic fountaining, and then that lava travels somewhere. Right. So that would have been one of those things. So map that back up on cosmic ray density or some sort of cyclic activity that falls inside of Bray cycles or grand solar minimum cycles, etc. And you might find something that lands on that eruptive time.
Right. And how magical would that have been for those natives that lived there, for a long time? And nothing like that happened. Just one day, the earth opens up and starts spitting out lava, and there's a river of fire out of nowhere.
That would be myth. That would be a myth.
Right. Well, that is where they put a lot of the petroglyphs, literally right next to it, where you can look over the lava field. It's also by the Sierra Blanca, which is the source of the Apache kind of religious beliefs about the great teacher and the four teachers after that. But what's weird is, like, say I'm looking at this map. I don't know. Let's say I know nothing about volcanoes. It looks to me like the majority of the volcanoes in the world are erupting. Right now, it says in eruption, minor activity.
Now, most times your average on a normal time is around 23 to maybe 25 volcanoes in unison around the planet. The highest I'd seen before was somewhere around 48. So if you're in the middle 30s, you're getting toward the really high end of the range. If you're down in the low 20s, you're right inside just like the average range. Over the time, that's one thing. You need to count them on your own. There's no like consolidated, here's your number for the day. I wish there were, but I haven't been able to find that. So you have to go around and count each one of those. Oh, there you go. They did it. They changed it. Okay, 41. That's really a lot. Like I said, the most I'd ever seen was in the high 40s, pushing toward 50. That is incredibly high amount of volcanoes going off on the planet at one time. 41, that's really getting toward the high edge. Like I say, normally it's in the low 20s, and that's where you'll sit. So think about that's nearly double the amount of the normal volcanic activity that we have. So what would cause that? There's nothing of anything we could produce, CO2, plastics, microplastics, nothing that could even come close to that. It has to be outside our planet. And you answered the question. So I'm very sure it's the galactic cosmic rays that are responsible for a lot of the things we're seeing right now. Please remember civilizationcycle.com, and also buy me a coffee /Civilization Cycle.